Professor Fawaz Gerges is Director of the Middle East Centre at the London School of Economics. He joins us now from central London. Hello, Professor. Thank you for joining us on Sky News this afternoon. This footage that we have seen online does appear to show hundreds of people killed by a chemical attack. We know that there are weapons inspectors on the ground in Syria, not necessarily allowed to go to this area, though. What should happen next?
Well, I think if Assad is intelligent, which he is not, he would allow the UN inspectors, there are 20 UN inspectors in Damascus who arrived on Sunday to investigate 3 major alleged attacks in Syria. He would allow them to go to an area called Al-Ghouta, which is 3 suburbs of Damascus, to investigate and verify if poisonous gas was used in the last 24 hours. If he does, he would show the world that he is genuine, that he means when he says that he will not use chemical weapons. He has not used chemical weapons. My take on it is that his response would be, well, it's too dangerous for the UN inspectors to travel to these areas because it's a war zone, and he does not also want to reveal his war plans, the battalion, the formations of his army. So I think at the end of the day, we have to wait and see what the United Nations, because already the French president asked the United Nations to basically request that the UN inspectors in Damascus demand a visit to the areas where casualties, we're talking about not only 500. The Syrian National Coalition says 1,100 people were killed. Various accounts talk about between 600 and 500 people. It's a large number of Syrians who were killed, regardless of whether they were killed by poison or even by conventional weapons. It is one of the biggest casualties of the war in the last 2 years and a half.
You feel that the alleged location of this attack is odd. Why so?
Well, you know, there are 3 questions that really do not make sense. The first question, Kay, is that why would the Assad government uses poison while you have a very strong UN team in Damascus? Question 1. Question 2, why would the Assad government use poison while his army has the upper hand in the Ghouta area? The Ghouta area is an eastern part of Damascus. And thirdly, he has done everything in his power to prevent Western intervention and the use of gas, in particular, on such large scales. If this is correct, if chemical and poisonous gas were used last night, you're talking about the largest alleged attack, chemical, non-conventional attack in the history of the Syrian conflict. And this would basically affect the red line that the American president established on Syria. The pressure would be overwhelming, not just on the American president, but even on the Brits and the French to retaliate militarily. So in this particular sense, it's very strange. It doesn't make sense. It's illogical, though we have learned in the last 2 years and a half that irrationality is as important as rationality when it comes to the Assad regime.
Although I presume the rebels would say in response to that, look at what the Assad regime has managed to carry out over the last many months, and the West has sat and watched.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what we know one thing, that the Western powers, in particular the United States, do not really have the stomach and the will to intervene militarily in Syria. In fact, what we have seen now in Syria is the mutation of the conflict. It's no longer just an internal conflict between the Assad regime and the opposition. It's a regional war by proxy and international conflict between the United States and Russia. But one point must be made very clear. If the credibility of the attacks in the last 24 hours are established, and the Americans, remember, have their ways and means to establishing whether a poison gas was used, because you're talking about large attacks, I think the pressure would be overwhelming on the American president to retaliate militarily. In a way, this would be really the last nail in the coffin of the Assad regime, because it would bring the brunt of the American Air Force against the Syrian security apparatus.